Functions are bits of code that perform a specific task. Give it a name, describe what it does, and then call the function by its name when you want to use it. Now, some functions will have parameters and returns. And here's a graphic just to show you an example of a function that takes a parameter and has a return. So a parameter is the input that is given to the function, and the return is the output that the function will pass back. Each function has a name, which tells you what tasks it will perform, and to use the function, you call it by its name and pass it input values, which are called arguments. So let's get going in our playground. We'll start by opening up Xcode 6 and open up Get Started with a Playground. And we'll name it as, let's see, functions. That sounds good. Saving it to the desktop and hit create. And here we go. I'm going to delete the preloaded text that's in here, and we'll start writing some functions. So for the first one, we're going to call it func, because that's how functions are started. Func, what's for dinner? I'm going to give it a parameter called food, which is going to be of type string. I'm going to return a string. Now, see how this is written? It's a dash with an arrow. That is your return type. So when you want something to return, you're going to do func, the name, what's for dinner, the parameter, which is going to be food of type string, and you're going to return a string. And what will this function do? Let's set up some curly braces, give ourselves some space, and let's write the function. How about var dinner is equal to tonight's dinner will be, and we're going to do the placeholder, which I've mentioned in previous lectures. So it's a slash, the parameter, which was food, and that's going to hold our place. Okay, then we're going to end quote, and don't forget we need to return a string, so we're going to return dinner, which we know is set up as a string. It's already inferred because it's the quotes, and Swift will know that is inferred to be of type string. Now we need to call the function. So what we're going to do is when you need to call a function, you can call it anywhere by its name. So we're going to do print ln, and in the parentheses we're going to say call the function, which is what's for dinner, pass in the arguments, which we're going to need food. Let's do the first one, steak and potatoes, an all-time favorite and a classic. And as you can see up here, it's printing out tonight's dinner will be steak and potatoes. Let's open this up a little bit in our console by hitting that the plus. Give ourselves a little bit more room by stretching this out, and we can see. And all I did was to open this was I went to this output right here, and I clicked on this circle right here, and that opened up the whole console on the right-hand side. So as you can see, it says tonight's dinner will be steak and potatoes. Now suppose you want to change that. So we're going to do print, call the function again. And in the parentheses, we're going to say the name of the function, what's for dinner, and we're going to pass it a different argument. And this time, again, in the parentheses, we're going to pass the argument. Okay, one of my favorites, grilled salmon and asparagus. Let me spell asparagus better. Asparagus. There we go. And you'll see out to the console, tonight's dinner will be grilled salmon and asparagus. So that function takes one parameter and pass back a string. Functions can also take multiple parameters, and these are written within the parentheses as well, and they are separated by commas. So let's write a function with multiple parameters. So func, eat and drink. I'm sort of on a food theme here, in case you can't figure that out by now. Okay, the first one's going to be a parameter called food. It's going to be of type string. The next one, I'm going to separate it with a comma, and I'm going to call that drink, and that's also going to be of type string. And that is going to return, and I do my return arrow with a dash and the closing caret or whatever that greater than sign is. And that's going to return a string. And let's write this out. First, I think we need to give ourselves a little bit more room so I can show you it's a little bit better formatted. Okay, so basically this is a function called eat and drink. It's going to take two parameters, both of type string, and it's going to return a string. So that's pretty much how that is read. And to write the function, we're going to call, let's see, var meal is equal to tonight we will be serving placeholder, and we're going to put our first parameter in there, food. So that's going to call whatever's in the food parameter with a glass of, here's our second placeholder. What do you think is going to go in there? Drink, that's right. Okay, now let's see, let's add a period just to make sure we're all proper here. So that's the function, and don't forget we need to return, what are we going to return? Meal, because that's going to be our string. Because Swift has inferred it as of type string because we started typing in with the quotes. We did not need to do meal, colon, string. Now let's call this function called eat and drink. Print line. We're going to call it eat and drink because that's the name. Let's pass in some arguments. First one is going to be food, so it's looking for a string of food. So we're going to do hot dogs. Not a very fancy dinner tonight, folks. And we need to call in the second argument, which is going to be Pepsi. Yuck, I don't think I would like hot dogs and Pepsi, but that's what we're going to have. And let's see what got printed out to the console. See up here, tonight we'll be serving hot dogs with a glass of Pepsi. Here's one of our arguments, hot dogs, and here's the other one, Pepsi. Okay, now I want to change this up a little bit because that's just not going to be so appealing. So let's do it again. So eat and drink. That's the name of our function. Let's pass in the first argument, which is the food. And lasagna. So that's our food. And the second argument is a drink of type string. And for the adults out there, a little glass of Merlot. And let's take a look at our console. And you can see tonight we'll be serving lasagna with a glass of Merlot. So to recap, this is the name of the function, eat and drink. It takes two arguments, both of type string. One is called food. One is called drink, and it returns a string. Now, there can also be functions that don't need any input parameters, but they still need the empty parentheses in its name when you're creating it and when you're calling it. So let's do one that doesn't take any parameters. Func, and now the name, I am hungry. It doesn't take any parameters, but it is going to return a string. And let's see, what's going to happen when we create this? Let's think about this. Open and close braces, give ourselves some room. It's going to just return the string. Let's order takeout. There we go. So to recap, the name of the function is I am hungry. It takes no parameters. Therefore, there's nothing in between these parentheses, but you do need to still type in the parentheses, but it is going to return a string. So we're going to call it print ln I am hungry, because that's the, hungry, because that's the name of the function. Do not forget the empty parentheses, otherwise it will not work. Now I realize what I did up here, I didn't type hungry correctly, so let's do that. Okay, and now if we look up into the console, it says, let's order takeout. And that's as the result of calling the function I am hungry, and it returned the string let's order takeout when it was called by its name down here. Now functions also do not have to have return types. So when you are printing out or typing out the function, you do not need this dash with the greater than symbol to look like an arrow of type string or int or whatever on here. And let's write one that does not have a return type. So we're going to start with func compliments to chef. And that's going to take a parameter called comment. And it's going to be of type string. And it's not going to return anything, so I don't need to type in that arrow. So let's do the function. Curly braces first, give ourselves some room. The function's going to be print line. Let's say, Mom, this dinner is placeholder time, backslash or forward slash, sorry, I always get those confused. Let's put it in the parentheses and we're going to put in comment because we're going to use a placeholder for the comment. Let's finish up with an exclamation point, end quotation mark, and we are done with that function. Now let's call the function. Compliment to chef, comment. That's going to be of type string, so we're going to have to pass in a string. Of course, we're going to put in delicious. And let's look to see what got printed out. Okay, it's early on a Monday morning, and I see that I have done some misspellings up here. So I'm going to do comment, which is going to do this, and delicious. There we go. Okay, so if you can see up into the console, it printed out, Mom, this dinner is delicious. And just to try another one, compliment to the chef, we can do, which is more likely, Mom, this dinner is burnt. That's happened a few times too. So again, just to recap, this is the name of our function. It takes one parameter of type string and doesn't return anything. And here we are calling it and passing in the argument. So that's it for the basics of functions for now. We're going to get into functions more deeply in later videos. But for now, practice writing your functions in your Xcode playground and see what kind of fun things you can come up with.